Well, how dilly-doodily, neighborinos. Or should I say, how dark, twisted, and emotionally complexly doodily. Yeah, we're going there. You probably think you know Ned Flanders. Friendly, pious, always chipper. The neighbor from hell only because he's too nice. The man who won't mow his lawn on Sunday because it disturbs the Sabbath. The guy who owns more Bibles than socks and says, heck, like it's a curse word. But what if I told you that Ned Flanders is not the flat, squeaky clean caricature we all assumed? No siree, Bob. Ned is complicated. A man of deep sadness, smothered anger, wild intensity, and an emotional range wider than Moe's bar tabs. Today, we're going beyond the facade. This isn't a tribute video. This is a full-scale dive into the darkness of Ned Flanders, and how The Simpsons, in its quiet genius, built one of the most quietly tragic, explosively unpredictable, and emotionally resonant characters in TV history. And yeah, he's still funny. But there's something haunting behind the grin. Let's start with this. For over 3 decades, Ned has been Homer's moral opposite. Not just his foil, his inverse. Homer's lazy, Ned is hardworking. Homer's gluttonous, Ned is disciplined. Homer is a walking disaster. Ned is a human safety brochure. But it's because he's so restrained that when Ned breaks, even a little, it shatters. Season after season, Homer leeches off of Ned's generosity. Takes his tools, borrows his appliances, hijacks his goodwill. Heck, even their iconic couch. Yup, property of Ned Flanders. And through it all, Ned endures. With a prayer and a smile. Because turning the other cheek is his whole identity. But underneath that politeness, there's pain. Take the heartbreaking. When Flanders failed, in season 3. Ned tries to follow his dream, opening the Leftorium. A store for left-handed folks. Of course, Homer secretly wishes it fails, and it does. Business tanks. Ned's finances collapse. He's literally selling his living room. And when Homer finally realizes his mistake and saves the store, there's a moment. Not just gratitude, but that quiet sadness of a man who knew his neighbor wanted him to fail. And still, forgives him. That moment, that subtle ache in Ned's eyes, was the first clue. There's something deeper going on. Let's fast forward. Hurricane Nedi, Season 8. A freak hurricane hits Springfield and only destroys one home. Guess whose? Ned's. Total wreckage. But even then, he's grateful his family's safe. The whole town bands together to rebuild his house, badly. Slanted walls, toilets in the kitchen, a roof made of popsicle sticks. And finally, it happens. Ned snaps. After years of patience and smiles and swallowed rage, he lets it rip. Insults every single person who botched his home. Even Reverend Lovejoy catches some heat. And when he checks himself into a mental hospital, we learn the truth. Ned's kindness isn't natural. It was conditioned. His beatnik parents raised him with no discipline, so the state reprogrammed him into a human doormat. Literally. 8 months of psychiatric conditioning to repress his anger. So yeah, every okily dokily is a choice. A learned behavior. A pressure cooker with a mustache. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to what we saw in season 36's The Flanchies of Inner Simpson. This was different. It starts innocently enough. Homer pushes Bart to become a DJ because he sees it as a ticket to fame and fortune. Of course, Bart's treehouse residency becomes an EDM madhouse. All-night raves, screaming crowds, glowing neon. You know, the works. And who lives right next door? That's right, Ned Flanders. At first, Ned tries to be reasonable. He asks them to turn it down. He buys noise-canceling headphones for himself, Rod, and Todd. Homer borrows them, which, in Springfield, means they're gone forever. Now, remember, Homer has borrowed countless things from Ned over the years. Camcorders, air conditioners, even his dignity. But something about those headphones, the symbolism of peace, family, quiet, it was the final straw. Then comes Mrs. McCormick, the mysterious Irish neighbor, who warns Homer, dark times are coming to Evergreen Terrace. That night, Ned doesn't sleep. His yard gets trashed. His life gets trampled. And for once, Ned doesn't smile. He doesn't pray. He doesn't forgive. He acts. He shows up at Homer's door. Sweeterless, people. That's like Batman showing up maskless. He tells Homer, calmly, that he'll never speak to him again. No anger. Just cold finality. Homer laughs it off. But as Mrs. McCormick says, the dark times have arrived. 9 months pass. And Ned doesn't say a word to Homer. Not a glance. Not a nod. Nothing. It's silence weaponized. And it eats Homer alive. He tries every trick, prank, stunt. Nothing works. Eventually, he writes the perfect apology letter. He tries. And you think, maybe, this is the moment. Maybe this will fix it. But no, it only makes things worse. Because the letter shows Ned something terrifying. Homer knew better. He's not an idiot. He's selfish. And that choice to hurt Ned despite knowing the pain it would cause. That's what breaks Ned completely. He starts pulling everything Homer ever borrowed out of his house. The couch, the toaster, the mug, the weather vane. His life becomes one big retraction. And then, the shredder. Ned shreds it all. It's not revenge. It's cleansing. Homer panics. Crashes into Ned's car. Ned retaliates. And for the first time in the show's history, Ned Flanders initiates a demolition derby on his own street. 2 cars. 2 men. 1 absurdly repressed grudge. And the craziest part, he's not out of control. This isn't Hurricane Nedi, where he explodes and collapses. This is calculated vengeance. Measured. Intentional. Scarier. The court forces them into couples counseling. And through a cocktail of group therapy and a psychedelic drug called eucompletamine, the two finally, reach a breakthrough. They understand each other. Not as enemies, but as damaged men who hurt and have been hurt. They reconcile. Sort of. But the episode ends on a chilling note. Because now, we've seen it. We know what Ned is capable of. The rage inside the righteousness. And if it ever bubbles up again. Ah, hell diddly ding dong crap. It's not just a great episode. It's the culmination of 36 years of buildup. A character arc that rewards you for paying attention. And what makes it all work is Harry Shearer's performance. He's voiced Ned from the beginning, but what he does in the Flanders of Inner Simpson is masterful. You feel the exhaustion, the heartbreak, the fury. He turns what could have been cartoon slapstick into a character study in emotional suppression. It's like watching Mr. Rogers flip a table. Equal parts shocking and inevitable. But you know what? This isn't some one-off anomaly. We've seen glimpses of Dark Ned before. Season 26's Bull E gave us a taste. When Homer misuses an anti-bullying law, Rod and Todd finally snap, because Homer borrowed their hot chocolate and mugs. Ned finally has him arrested. When Homer begs forgiveness, Ned flatly refuses. It takes 90 days of treatment for him to even consider it. That's the thing. Ned wants to believe in goodness. But he remembers everything. Every insult. Every injustice. He forgives, but he doesn't forget. And sometimes, even forgiveness runs out. He's a man of God, but that doesn't mean he's a saint. And don't forget the tragedy of Maud. When she dies, knocked off the bleachers by a T-shirt cannon. Yeah, seriously, Ned's whole world changes. He grieves. Quietly. Stoically. But it hurts. Watching him try to date again. Heartbreaking. That loneliness follows him for seasons. He even marries Edna Krabappel, only for her to pass away, too. How much loss can one man take? And yet, he endures. He keeps smiling. Keeps praying. Keeps mowing that lawn. So what do we take from all this? Ned Flanders isn't a cartoon joke. He's a portrait of emotional repression. A man who holds everything in because he was conditioned to never explode. But he feels deeply. He suffers. He mourns. And when he finally breaks, it's not random, it's righteous. He's not weak. He's just worn down. And honestly, that makes him one of the most compelling characters on TV. Ever. Not bad for a guy who once called hot cocoa Satan's buttermilk. So next time someone tells you The Simpsons has run out of steam, show them the Flanders of Inner Simpson. Show them what 36 years of slow burn character writing can accomplish. Show them Ned Flanders, the real one. Not just the sweater, but the soul underneath. And that's the duality of Ned. The man who thanks the Lord for dental floss, and the man who will absolutely shred your property if you cross the line one too many times. It's hilarious. It's sad. It's genius. And it's why I'll always argue that Ned Flanders is the most underrated character on the show. If you enjoyed this dive into the dark side of Springfield's sunniest man, go ahead and tap that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you want more videos about the hidden layers, twisted arcs, and brilliant madness of The Simpsons, hit subscribe and ring that little bell so you don't miss a thing. Until next time, may your fences be white, your hot cocoa be holy, and your neighborly patience be stronger than Homer's borrowing habits. Diddly out.